Welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you're a regular listener, you know the drill. We get a stack of documents, books, intel briefings, you name it, and we try to distill it all down.
Right. We try to find the essential insights for you.
Exactly. We don't just, read the headlines. We really want to understand the machinery that's grinding away underneath them.
That is the goal, isn't it? I mean, to get past the what and really, really dig into the why.
Yeah.
And today, the file we are opening, it feels less like a standard geopolitical analysis and, I don't know, more like a high-octane thriller.
It really does.
But the scary part is how closely it all mirrors the actual fault lines we're seeing in the world right now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the story we're looking at today spans the entire globe. Literally, we're going to take you from these frozen, oxygen-starved passes of the Hindu Kush in Afghanistan.
All the way to the polished, cutthroat corridors of power in Washington, D.C.
And then somehow all the way up to the silent, dangerous woods of northern Maine. It is a sprawling narrative.
It's huge. But what makes this particular deep dive so compelling to me is that we're not just talking about, explosions and gunfights.
Though there is a lot of that.
Oh, let's be honest. There is plenty of kinetic action in the source material. But we're really talking about a fundamental shift in the psychology of modern warfare. We're talking about the evolution of the warrior class itself.
Right, and that is exactly where I want to start. Because the source material we have, which is based on the book The Apostle by Brad Thor, it kicks off with this definition that it sets the tone for everything else we're going to discuss. It talks about a new breed of operator.
Exactly. And to get this deep dive, you really have to understand that distinction. For decades, military sociologists, historians, even the public, we all talked about true believers.
The patriots, Captain America's.
Right. The guys who followed orders, who believed in the chain of command, who trusted that the system, the government, the bureaucracy, the oversight committees was ultimately working for the greater good. They were the shield of the state.
They did what they were told.
They did what they were told because they believed the people telling them to do it had the moral high ground.
But the source material, it argues that label, true believer, it's dead. Or at least it doesn't apply to this elite tier of operators anymore.
Because the implication is that the system broke.
Right.
That is the core thesis here. The text describes this new breed not as believers, but as apostles.
Apostles, that's a loaded term. It feels religious, almost zealous.
And it's meant to be. I mean, think about what an apostle is in a historical context. It's someone sent on a mission, someone who carries the message no matter what the consequences are.
Okay.
So in this context, an apostle is someone who is passionately, almost fanatically dedicated to the craft of warfare itself. They are motivated by this deep, abiding love for their country. But, and this is the critical pivot point, they've realized they might have to save the country in spite of the government.
So an apostle looks at the red tape, the risk-averse politicians, the lawyers sitting in the Situation Room, and just says, I am going to get the job done.
Mission success is the only God I serve.
And I don't care if I have to break the rules to do it.
Precisely. They work with limited support. They fight against what the text calls bloated bureaucracies. They're willing to face just intense danger to keep America free, but they have stopped waiting for permission. It's a shift from I serve the government to I serve the outcome.
Which is a terrifying prospect for a democracy, isn't it? I mean, a rogue operator just deciding what the right outcome is.
It is the ultimate moral gray area. It's the vigilante question on a geopolitical scale.
Wow.
And that is the mission of today's deep dive. We're going to unpack how this concept of the apostle plays out in a scenario involving a Russian spy, a Taliban warlord, a terrified American president, and a media mogul who thinks she owns them all.
It's a chaotic cast of characters. It sounds like they've set up for a joke, but nobody's laughing in this story.
It's a collision course. We're going to analyze a plot to fracture the Taliban and al-Qaeda, look at the dirty intersection of high-level U.S. politics and covert ops, and then ultimately ask, do we need these apostles? Or are they a symptom of a failing state?
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
But that's why we're here. Let's jump right into segment one. We are dropping into Nangarhar province, Afghanistan.
And the setting here is so crucial. We aren't in a city. We are on the frontier. The text describes it vividly. The air is thin. It's biting cold. You're next to a stream of icy snowmelt coming down from the Hindu Kush Mountains.
It sounds bleak.
It is austere. colorless, just mud houses, rocky overhangs, and this wind that just cuts right through you. I mean, this is a place where empires go to die.
And in all this desolation, there's a meeting. We see a man who, at first glance, he looks like a local. He's wearing these salwar kameez.
Traditional baggy trousers and tunic, yeah.
He's got the pakal hat on, that rolled wool hat you always see in photos of the mujahideen. He blends in perfectly with the landscape.
Until you get close. The source tells us he has these piercing blue eyes and deep Slavic features. He speaks the language, he wears the clothes, but his DNA is from a very different kind of cold climate.
This is Sergei Simonov.
That is his real name. But in this world, names are just tools. To the locals, and specifically to the warlord he's meeting, he's known as Bakrawan.
Which translates to what?
Running luck.
Running luck.
In Pashto, yes. It is a name that carries a lot of weight. It implies he's a survivor. The text mentions he's been navigating the chaos of Afghanistan for 25 years. He fought there during the Soviet invasion in the 80s, and he's still there.
So he's seen it all.
He's a man who has walked through minefields, literal and political, and come out unscathed.
But as we dig into his internal monologue, we realize his luck has, well, it's run out in his personal life. This is the part that really surprised me. You expect a Russian arms dealer or spy to be this, I don't know, this cold, unfeeling machine, a caricature.
Right.
But Simonov is carrying this massive weight of guilt.
It creates a much more complex villain. He isn't driven by ideology. He doesn't care about Mother Russia's glory anymore. He doesn't care about the Soviet Union. He is driven by a need to retire. He needs money.
But not for greed.
Oh, really?
He's not trying to buy a yacht in the Mediterranean.
No. It's for his son, Sasha.
The source material details a fire. Can we talk about that? Because it creates such a specific psychological profile for him. It explains why he's doing what he's doing.
It's a tragic backstory. Simonov's wife was an alcoholic. He knew it. He saw all the signs. But he was an operative. He was away on missions, serving the state.
So he was absent.
He ignored his intuition because he was following orders. He prioritized the mission over his family. And while he was gone, there was a fire.
And because of his wife's negligence.
His son, Sasha, was terribly disfigured. Burns, scars. I mean, the boy's life was just ruined. And Simonov blames himself entirely. He feels that if he had been a father instead of a spy, his son would be whole. He feels the service to the state cost him his son's future.
So he wears that guilt like a physical weight.
The text actually says he wears it across his shoulders like the patus, the heavy wool blankets the Taliban wear. He wants to do this one last audacious operation, get a massive payout from his intelligence service, and then dedicate the rest of his life to caring for his son. He wants to buy the best surgeons, the best care. He wants redemption.
So that's the engine driving this whole plot.
Yeah.
A father's desperate guilt, and desperate men make dangerous plans. He is meeting with a Taliban commander, a guy named Mullah Masood Akund.
And Masood is a fascinating counterpoint to Simonov. Simonov is smooth, deceptive, a chameleon. Masood is hard, like the mountains.
Rough.
He's described as battle-hardened, with eyes like flint. He's short, only 5'8", but he commands the room. And this is the critical piece of intel for our listeners. Masood represents a faction of the Taliban that hates al-Qaeda.
Yeah, let's unpack that. Because I think in the West, the general public tends to group them all together. Taliban, al-Qaeda, ISIS, it's all just the bad guys.
It is a massive distinction, and we have to look at the history, which the source details nicely. Back in 1998, the Taliban basically controlled Afghanistan. They were stabilizing the country.
By their own brutal standards, of course.
They were brutal, yes. We aren't apologizing for their human rights record. But they were a government. They were even in peace talks with the Northern Alliance. They were on the brink of international recognition. They had ambassadors talking to the U.S. State Department. They were poised to be the legitimate rulers.
Well,
Then Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda, who are guests in the country, bombed the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania.
Right. They brought the heat.
The U.S. fired cruise missiles into Afghanistan in response. The peace talks collapsed. The Taliban became a pariah state. And then, of course, 9/11 happened, and the U.S. invaded and toppled the Taliban government completely.
So from Masood's perspective, al-Qaeda ruined everything. They were the guests who burned down the house.
Exactly. They were foreigners, Arabs, who cared about a global jihad, not about the Afghan people or the Taliban's rule. They used Afghanistan as a launch pad and got the Taliban destroyed in the process. Masood is a nationalist. He wants his country back. He wants the Taliban to rule Afghanistan, and he sees al-Qaeda as a parasite that needs to be removed.
So Simonov leverages this resentment. He proposes a strategy. He calls it the divorce.
A divorce, it sounds so bureaucratic, doesn't it? Like legal paperwork.
Yeah.
But the plan is bloody. It is elegantly, ruthlessly Russian. The plan is to deal al-Qaeda a death blow, wipe them out, kill the leadership, cut the funding, destroy the camps.
Which, wait, isn't that what the U.S. wants? That sounds like a win for us.
It is, but here's the twist. They are going to wipe out al-Qaeda, but they're going to frame the Americans for it.
Wow. Okay, explain the mechanics of that. Why frame the Americans?
Well, think about it. If the Taliban just killed al-Qaeda, it would look like a civil war within the jihadist movement. It would look like betrayal. It would fracture the base. But if the Americans are blamed for the attacks, two things happen.
Right.
One, al-Qaeda is removed as a problem. Two, the anger of the populace is directed at the U.S., not the Taliban. It unites the country against the invader while cleaning house internally.
It creates a power vacuum.
Correct. With al-Qaeda gone and the current Taliban leadership, specifically Mullah Omar, who is hiding in Pakistan, looking weak or ineffective against these American attacks, Masood can step up. He can say, I am the one uniting us. I am the strong horse. He takes over as supreme leader. He uses Russian funding to buy better weapons. He pushes the Americans out.
And what does Russia get out of this? Why is Simonov's government backing this play?
Influence without responsibility. The text mentions that the Russians have learned from their mistakes in the 1980s. They know they can't occupy Afghanistan. It's the graveyard of empires for a reason.
Right.
They don't want to govern it. They just want a friendly regime next door that keeps the chaos contained. It's a lead from behind strategy.
It's terrifyingly smart. It creates stability on Russia's border and humiliates the U.S. at the same time.
Exactly. But there's a human element in this meeting that I found really touching, in a bizarre way. Masood has a brother, Zwak.
Yes, Swak. Let's talk about him.
Zwak is mentally challenged. The text says he's 31 years old but has this childlike demeanor. He guards the village with an AK-47 that's all taped up with blue tape.
Which is such a specific detail. Blue tape on an AK-47.
It is. And Masood loves him deeply. There's this scene described where they shave together in the mornings. It shows a very human side to this hardened warlord. He treats Zwak with compassion, not as a burden. He protects him.
And Simonov knows this. He uses it. He brings a gift.
White high-top basketball shoes.
In the middle of the Hindu Kush.
It seems so out of place, right? But the source says that despite hating Western culture, the Taliban prize basketball shoes as much as their rifles. It is a huge status symbol. It represents wealth, quality, modernity.
So Simonov giving these to Zwak.
It does two things. It makes Zwak incredibly happy, and it cements the bond with Masood. It's a masterstroke of manipulation.
It shows cultural fluency.
It shows he understands Pashtunwali, the Pashtun code of honor.
All right, let's explain that quickly for the listeners who might not know.
Pashtunwali is older than Islam. One of its core tenets is malmastia, or hospitality. If you invite someone into your home, you are obligated to protect them to the death.
So Simonov is totally safe there.
He's sitting there, unarmed. He unloads his weapon and puts it on the desk, surrounded by killers. But he is safe. Not because of his strength, but because of that code.
It's a psychological game.
It is. But as Simonov leaves, the mask slips. He pins a picture of his disfigured son on the wall of his safe house and kisses it. He whispers, "Soon, Sasha." He is setting a trap, and he needs bait. He needs something to provoke the Americans into a reaction that he can manipulate.
He needs an American to kickstart this whole conspiracy.
He needs an American to kickstart this whole conspiracy.
And that bait, unfortunately, brings us to segment 2. We are moving to Kandahar province 3 weeks later, and we meet Dr. Julia Gallo.
This is a drastic shift in tone. We go from the dark conspiracies of men to the bright, dusty reality of humanitarian aid.
Dr. Gallo is the spark that is going to ignite this powder keg. She's an American OBGYN, a graduate of Rush University in Chicago. She comes from extreme privilege. She's the daughter of a very powerful woman, which we'll get to, but she is out in the dust and the heat, trying to save lives.
The text paints her as an idealist? Maybe. A bit of a naive one.
I would say an aggressive idealist.
Yeah.
But look at her results. Infant mortality is down 18% in her region since the Taliban were ousted. That's 40 to 50,000 infants surviving who would have died. That is an incredible achievement. She should be thrilled. That's a career's worth of success.
But she isn't. She is unhappy because she wants total cultural change, and she wants it now. She isn't satisfied with medical victories. She wants social victories. And this is where she's clashing with her interpreter, Syed.
Syed seems like the audience surrogate here. He's the guy saying, wait, this is dangerous, let's not poke the bear.
Syed represents the real Afghanistan. He is 22, has a wife and 3 children. He has hope, which is rare in that country. But he is pragmatic. He knows where the lines are. He knows what the Taliban will do if they come back. Julia, she wants to erase the lines.
There is this scene where she is forcing a woman to answer a question about her daughter, right?
Yes. The woman's daughter was traded to pay off a debt. It's a horrific practice, essentially slavery. And Julia is furious. She is lecturing these village women about their rights, telling them they have options, that there's a school nearby.
Which sounds noble to Western ears. It sounds like exactly what we would want an NGO worker to say.
It is noble, but Syed points out the reality. The Taliban ride by on motorbikes and spray acid on girls who go to school. They kill teachers. Julia's idealism is putting a target on these women's backs. She gets to go home to her compound. They have to live there.
And Syed has had enough.
He actually quits. He tells her, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to die for this. That is a powerful moment. He has stuck with her through a lot, but she is pushing too hard. She is reckless with her own safety and his.
But he is a good man. He doesn't just leave her stranded.
No. He agrees to drive her back to Kabul one last time, and that is when they hit the checkpoint.
This scene is brutal, and it is pivotal. Describe what happens.
They're on a dusty road, miles from anywhere. They come across a roadblock manned by the ANA, the Afghan National Army. Now, these are supposed to be the good guys. These are the allies the U.S. is training and funding.
But they don't act like allies.
Not at all. Syed rolls down the window and gives the standard greeting, Salam alaikum, peace be upon you.
And they ignore it.
The soldiers ignore it. They're tense, hostile. The text implies they might be high on drugs or just looking for violence. The captain drags Syed out of the car. He throws him to the ground in the dirt.
And Julia? Does she stay in the car?
No. And this tells us a lot about her character. She grabs a scalpel from her medical bag. She jumps out. When a soldier tries to stop her, she slashes him. She fights. She actually manages to get back in the car and tries to drive away.
She's not passive.
She is fierce. She has the heart of a lion, but she's in a situation where courage isn't enough. They shoot out the tires. The text describes a deafening chorus of gunfire. The car slams to a halt.
That sounds chaotic.
It ends in tragedy. The captain beats Syed. Julia is pinned against the car. She thinks she is going to be raped. A very real fear in that situation. But the reality is colder. The captain pulls his pistol and executes Syed. Point blank.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
The interpreter, the man with the wife and 3 kids, the man who just wanted to survive, gone.
And Julia realizes this wasn't an accident.
As they drag her away, she realizes they aren't killing her. They executed Syed to eliminate the witness, but they are keeping her alive. This was a targeted abduction. She is the bait Simonoff is praying for. She wasn't just in the wrong place at the wrong time. She was selected.
So the trap is sprung, the bait is taken. Now we zoom out. We leave the dust of Kandahar and move to the polished estates of McLean, Virginia. Segment 3. This is where the political warfare starts.
And we meet the power behind the throne, Stephanie Gallo.
Julia's mother.
Not just her mother. Stephanie Gallo is a media tycoon. Think of the most powerful media mogul you can imagine, then double it. She owns newspapers, movie studios, TV stations. She shapes what Americans think. She decides what is news and what isn't.
And the source makes it very clear. She owns the present.
She is the primary architect of President Robert Alden's election victory. She didn't just donate, she delivered the narrative. She told him he would win. Not could, but would, and she made it happen. So President Alden owes her big time.
So let's talk about President Alden. What's his vibe? Because he seems very different from the apostle archetype we talked about earlier.
He is the anti-apostle. He's the change candidate. He ran on a platform of dismantling the aggressive counterterrorism policies of the previous administration. He's risk-averse. He wants to rely on the rule of law. He wants to bring the cowboys in the CIA to heel.
He wants to prove America can be strong without being brutal.
He wants to be the clean president.
Right.
But now he is facing a nightmare scenario. The kidnappers, who we know are part of this Russian Taliban plot, have made a demand. They don't want money.
They want a prisoner swap.
They want Mustafa Khan.
Who is he?
The source describes him as a very bad al-Qaeda operative, a dual British-Pakistani citizen, a financial genius for the terror network. The president compares him to Lee Harvey Oswald, John Hinckley, and John Wilkes Booth rolled into one.
So a high-value target. A
monster who has helped kill countless Afghan officials and Americans. Alden's dilemma is this. He ran on no special treatment. He ran on letting the Afghan government handle their own justice, handing over a mass murderer to save a donor's daughter. It goes against everything he campaigned on.
It's pure hypocrisy.
It proves his critics right that the elite play by different rules. He tells Gallo, "What you're asking me to do is dishonest."
And Stephanie Gallo's response.
She doesn't care about his honesty. She is a mother whose child is in the hands of terrorists. The confrontation at her estate is intense. She basically tells him, "I don't care about your platform. I want my daughter back." She wants him to flood the skies with drones. She wants action.
And when he refuses,
She drops the nuclear option. Blackmail.
this is the unholy alliance part of American politics.
She tells him, "If you don't act, the world is going to find out that the new American president was an accessory to the deaths of 4 innocent people and actively conspired to cover it up."
Whoa. Do we know who those people are?
The source doesn't give us the details yet. It just drops that bombshell. But the threat is clear. She can destroy him. She made him, and she can break him.
Right.
She tells him his presidency will be one of the shortest in history.
So Alden is cornered. He can't use the official military or CIA channels because of the optics in his own policy. He needs an off-the-books solution.
He needs someone who can do the things he publicly condemns. He needs a deniable asset. He needs an apostle.
Which brings us to segment 4. We are heading to Rockwood, Maine, deep in the woods.
Enter Scot Harvath.
The sheepdog.
That's the metaphor the book uses, drawing from that famous George Orwell quote. Or at least the quote that's often attributed to him.
People sleep peaceably in their beds at night, only because rough men stand ready to do violence on their behalf.
Exactly. Harvath is that rough man.
Paint the picture for us. Where is he?
He is living in a cabin on Moosehead Lake with his girlfriend Tracy. He's chopping wood, snowshoeing. He is in the best shape of his life. He's trying to find peace. He's trying to live a normal life. He's running miles every day in the snow.
But he's not alone. He has a dog. And I have to say, I love the description of this dog.
Bullet, a Caucasian Ovcharka, or Russian bear dog. 200 pounds of muscle and loyalty. The text says the dog is a metaphor for Harvath. Fierce, loyal, and absolutely vicious when guarding his territory.
It's a serious dog.
This breed was used by the Russian military and East German border patrol. They are serious animals. They aren't pets. They are guardians.
So Harvath is out of the game.
He was forced out. He used to run the Apex Project.
What was that?
It was a top-secret program buried inside the Office of International Investigative Assistance, the OIA. On paper, it was about helping foreign police.
Right.
In reality, it was a program designed to level the playing field with terrorists, meaning using their own brutal tactics against them. Kidnapping, interrogation, elimination, no rules, whatever it takes. Harvath took the tactics that worked for the enemy and turned them back on them. He was effective, but he was controversial.
And President Alden shut it down.
Yes. Alden viewed it as a stain on American honor. He fired Harvath as part of his cleaning house of the intelligence community. He wanted to get rid of the cowboys.
So Harvath is sitting in Maine, probably feeling a bit cynical about the state of the world.
Extremely cynical. He has this internal monologue about bread and circuses.
That Roman concept.
Right. He thinks the American public is asleep. As long as they have their iPods and fast food, McDonald's drive-thrus, and American Idol, as the text puts it, they don't care that their national security is being eroded.
They don't want to know how the sausage is made.
They just want to be safe. They want the luxury of morality without the cost of survival. He sounds a bit bitter, but from where he sits, he believes the country is vulnerable because the new administration is prioritizing optics over effectiveness. He thinks the warriors have been replaced by lawyers.
So he's running in the woods, trying to outrun his past, and suddenly, Bullet the dog goes nuts.
The hair stands up on Bullet's back. Harvath thinks it's a bear, but Bullet takes off. Harvath chases him and finds a black Chevy Tahoe blocking his SUV. Secret Service, Agents Benson and Wagner. And it is a tense meeting. Bullet is attacking the car window, trying to eat the car, basically. Harvath has his hand on his concealed carry weapon, a Taurus TCP .3A0.
I love the detail that he's ready to shoot federal agents if he has to.
It goes back to his training. Have a smile for everyone you meet and a plan to kill them. He balances healthy suspicion with paranoia. He assumes they're there to arrest him or silence him. He doesn't trust the government anymore.
They aren't there to arrest him.
No. They tell him the president needs to see him.
And Harvath's reaction.
I don't work for Washington anymore. He refuses. He gives them a fake name, William Howard Taft. He's mocking them. He has zero respect for the administration that fired him. He's enjoying messing with them.
So how do they convince him?
They hand him a satellite phone. Or, as Agent Wagner calls it, a snow cone maker.
I laughed at that. Little bit of spy humor.
It breaks the tension. Harvath takes the phone. He knows what it means. You don't get handed a sat phone in the woods unless the world is on fire. The quiet life is over.
Segment 5 takes us to the meeting. And even the transport is symbolic.
He is picked up in a Super Puma helicopter, but not a military one. This one has white hand-stitched leather seats and Hermes pillows.
Hermes pillows in a chopper. That is a flex.
It belongs to Stephanie Gallo. It's a visual representation of how private power is facilitating this government operation. The government can't be seen doing this, so the billionaire is paying for the ride.
They fly him to Seal Harbor, Maine, a super-rich enclave.
To an estate owned by a lifestyle maven. It is implied to be a Martha Stewart-type pink granite, 12 bedrooms, totally secluded. It is all very surreal.
Harvath arrives, and he immediately starts critiquing the security detail.
This ties back to his worldview. He notices the Secret Service agents are younger, more diverse. He critiques Alden's diversity over experience hiring practices. He notes that Alden pushed out experienced agents to bring in younger ones to look better on camera.
So Harvath genuinely fears that in trying to make this service look right, Alden has made the president less safe.
Right. He isn't making a political point. He's making a tactical one. He believes experience is the only thing that matters when the bullets start flying. So he walks in, and there they are, the president who fired him and the woman who got the president elected.
The dynamic in that room must be suffocating.
It is thick with irony. Alden and Gallo are begging for help. They brief him on the kidnapping. They tell him the demand. Mustafa Khan...
And Harvath asks the million-dollar question. Who has her?
The intel says Taliban militants aligned with al-Qaeda.
Which we know is only half true, thanks to our knowledge of the Russian plot.
Exactly. Harvath is stepping into a trap. He doesn't know about Simonov. He doesn't know about the divorce. He doesn't know about the basketball shoes or the Russian funding. He just knows that the president, the man of law and order, is asking him to go off the books to save a donor's daughter.
It is the ultimate hypocrisy, but it is also the only move Alden has left.
And that is where the source material leaves us on the edge of our seats. Harvath is being pulled back in. He accepts the mission, not for the president, but because an American is in trouble. That's the apostle mindset. The mission matters, the politics don't. He will save the girl, even if he despises the men who sent him.
Okay, let's unpack the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
We have walked through the plot, but what does this all mean for us, the listeners?
It goes back to that core theme, the apostle. The book is making an argument about the nature of the world we live in. It's arguing that in a world of complex, asymmetric threats like Russian spies manipulating Taliban warlords, traditional, bureaucratic responses are destined to fail.
Alden tries to follow the rules. He tries to say, no, we don't negotiate with terrorists, but the reality of power, Stephanie Gallo's power, forces his hand.
And the reality of violence, what happened to Syed and Julia, requires a violent response. The apostle isn't a hero because he follows the rules. He is a hero in the context of the story because he breaks them to achieve the moral good, saving the innocent.
But it's messy, isn't it? I mean, Harvath is going in blind. He's being used by a compromised president to clean up a mess made by an idealist doctor.
It is incredibly messy. And let's not overlook the Russian angle. Simonov's plan is brilliant. If he succeeds, he destroys al-Qaeda. That is actually good for the West, isn't it?
That is a wild thought. If the bad guy's plan wipes out a terror network, do we root for him?
It forces us to ask, does the intent matter? Simonov doesn't care about the West, he cares about his son. But the fallout might align with U.S. interests, or it might create a stronger enemy in Massoud. It is a deal with the devil.
And Julia Gallo is the pawn in the middle. Her idealism led her into the trap, but her ferocity, that scalpel, might be what keeps her alive.
She is not a damsel in distress. She is a fighter, but she is up against forces way bigger than she realizes.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's look at the board. We have the Russian mastermind, Dr. On, waiting for his bait to work so he can save his son. We have Mullah Massoud waiting to seize power. We have the president paralyzed by his own politics. We have Stephanie Gallo pulling the strings.
And we have the sheepdog, Scot Harvath, unleashed and heading into the storm.
It's a perfect storm of motivation. Everyone wants something different, and the collision point is one woman in a mud hut in Afghanistan.
It really is.
Here's the provocative thought I want to leave our listeners with today. The book draws this sharp line between the true believer and the apostle. The true believer trusts the system. The apostle trusts the mission.
Right.
In our world today, paralyzed by bureaucracy, optics, and political infighting, Do we need apostles? Is the operator who ignores the rules to get the job done a hero? Or is he actually a symptom of a broken system?
That's the question, isn't it?
If the system worked, would we even need men like Scot Harvath?
And furthermore, if the result is mission success, if Julia is saved, if Al-Qaeda is destroyed, does it matter how we got there? Does the end justify the means when the means are completely off the books?
That is the question that keeps the sheepdog awake at night. And it should probably keep us awake too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Apostle. There are layers upon layers here, and we only just scratched the surface of the action that is about to unfold.
It is going to be a wild ride.
We will see you on the next one. Stay curious.